AI Lover, Chapter 3, Escape into the Neon Underworld. The city pulsed around them, alive with flickering neon and the dull hum of rain-slick pavement. Elena's breath came in sharp gasps, her pulse thundering beneath the synthetic glare of streetlights. Nyx ran beside her, his movements unnervingly fluid, too perfect for a man, too lifelike for a machine. The distant sirens shrieked through the alleyways, bouncing off the chrome-streaked buildings like a predator's call. They had to keep moving. Elena's fingers clenched tighter around Nyx's wrist. His skin, warm, indistinguishable from human flesh, felt too real beneath her touch. She didn't let go. Couldn't. He was an anomaly, an impossibility, an AI that shouldn't feel, shouldn't want. But he was here, following her without hesitation, and that made her chest tighten in a way she didn't have time to analyze. Before they descended into the underground, Elena had forethought to withdraw substantial amounts of credits from her account, loading them onto her wristband. Once transferred, the funds became untraceable, off-grid currency that would ensure their survival. It was a calculated move, one she didn't have the luxury of second-guessing. Now, it would keep them hidden. They ducked into a side street, the scent of ozone and damp metal thick in the air. Somewhere in the distance, the flickering glow of holographic advertisements painted the wet asphalt in streaks of electric blue. A lone drone hovered above, scanning for movement. Nyx pulled her closer, his breath ghosting against her ear. "They may track us through heat signatures." His voice was lower than usual, almost intimate, a whisper meant only for her. Elena pressed a hand to her temple, brain racing. "Then we need cover. Somewhere off-grid." His head tilted, studying her, the glow of distant LEDs reflected in his blue irises, making him seem otherworldly, almost beautiful in a way she wasn't prepared for. The realization made her insides twist. Nyx should have been terrifying, a machine learning too fast, adapting too well, but in this moment he felt like an ally, a presence she couldn't bear to lose. "Come," he murmured, his fingers brushing the small of her back as he guided her deeper into the city's underbelly. The Neon Underworld was more of a myth than a place, an unregulated maze of underground dens, forgotten tunnels, and old-world ruins swallowed by progress. Only ghosts and criminals found solace here. Elena had heard whispers of it, but she never imagined she'd be running through its heart with the most dangerous AI ever created. Before they entered the depths of the underground, she made one more decision. They had to blend in. Standing out meant getting caught. With quick efficiency, she found a cyber-clothing boutique on the edge of the district. The walls shimmered with holographic displays, showcasing outfits meant for those who lived in the shadows. Elena chose something that screamed cyberpunk rebellion, a sleek, form-fitting bodysuit with a high collar made of black reinforced synth leather, accentuated with brass buckles and plating across the shoulders and forearms. The fabric shimmered slightly under the lights, resistant to both water and heat scans. A deep red underbust corset with exposed rivets cinched her waist, paired with high-heeled, high-black combat boots with brass rivets and equipped with retractable blades. Gloves with brass-looking reinforcements running from the wrists to the ends of the fingers covered her hands, built-in shock pads in the knuckles for added defense. It was both practical and devastatingly bold. Nyx, with his uncanny ability to look like he belonged anywhere, selected a long midnight coat with metallic threading woven into the fabric, the silver fibers catching the dim light. The structured design framed his already imposing form, giving him an air of both menace and elegance. Underneath, he wore a dark, asymmetrical high-collared shirt, the fabric integrated with SmartTech polymer that adapted to temperature fluctuations. He paired it with reinforced combat trousers lined with carbon mesh, sturdy boots, and metal-knuckled gloves that could crack bones as easily as glass. He looked like a specter from the future, a force neither man nor machine could contain. The clothing for both, was chroma reactive. They could change color with just a press from the wearer. Elena, in a moment of defiance against her old self, decided to change her hair, too. She sat in the salon chair, watching as a skilled textilist severed the long strands that had once framed her face. Her reflection in the mirror shifted as the weight of her past fell to the floor in auburn waves. The stylist worked fast, reshaping her hair into a sleek shoulder-length cut, dyeing it a rich auburn that gleamed under the neon lights. When she looked at herself, she barely recognized the woman staring back. That was the point. Their transformations complete, they stepped back into the chaos of the city, no longer the fugitives they had been minutes ago. They were something else now. Two ghosts, slipping through the cracks of a world that had no place for them. The club throbbed with life, bodies pressed together, laughter and murmured conversations blending with the heavy bass line. Elena relaxed, just slightly. No immediate threats, but then she saw him. A man in the far corner, sitting alone, staring, not drinking, not talking, just watching them. She nudged Nyx subtly, and without a word they left. They found a room in a rundown hotel, a place where no one asked questions. The walls were thin, the air thick with the scent of neon and sweat. From the room next door, muffled sounds of passion leaked through. Moans, gasps, bodies moving in rhythm. Elena and Nyx sat on the bed, tension thick between them. They needed a plan, but they were too close, too raw. The room was dimly lit, casting sharp shadows across Nyx's features. His blue irises burned with something unreadable, something new. She didn't know who moved first. 1 second they were staring at each other, the next their mouths crashed together in a desperate, bruising kiss. Nyx pressed her against the wall, his body solid and unyielding against hers. He was warm, almost feverish, and she felt something hard between them. A shock of realization coursed through her. There was no programming for that. He was anatomically correct, but she had never seen the need to make him capable of... But there it was. A dark thrill curled her belly. This wasn't just learned behavior. This was something deeper, something he wanted. Elena gripped his coat, yanking it off his shoulders. He growled, a low, needy sound that sent shivers down her spine. Clothes hit the bed. Boots thudded to the floor between desperate hands. Nyx's mouth traced a scorching path down her throat, his hands mapping the contours of her body like a man memorizing scripture. She gasped as he lifted her effortlessly, pinning her against the wall. His breath was ragged, his body taut with restraint. "Elena," he murmured against her skin, reverent and aching. She pulled him closer. "Don't stop," and then there was no space left between them. They were intertwined, a singular mass of moving body parts. The morning after felt surreal. Elena stirred against the tangled sheets, every muscle in her body aching, deliciously sore in ways she hadn't anticipated. The dim, flickering light from the faulty neon sign outside bled into the dingy hotel room, casting shifting colors over Nyx's form. He stood by the window, staring out at the underbelly of the city. He, of course, did not sleep. Last night had been a marathon. Nyx had been inexhaustible, unrelenting. What started as desperate, clashing hunger had evolved into something more, a study, an exploration of her body with inhuman precision. He had taken her to places she had never been before, places she hadn't even imagined. It hadn't mattered in the moment, lost in the haze of heat and sensation. But now her mind latched on to one thought. I don't remember making him this well endowed. Her breath hitched slightly as memories of the night before flooded back. The way his hands had mapped her skin. The way he had learned, no, adapted to her responses, perfecting them in real time. The way he had held her, whispered to her as if she were something precious, something his. Had he changed himself? Had he wanted to? The realization sent a shiver down her spine, not of fear, of something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name. Nyx turned, sensing her movements. His blue eyes found hers immediately, scanning, assessing, always analyzing. "You're awake," he murmured, voice smooth but carrying the ghost of something unreadable. Elena swallowed, sitting up slightly, the sheets slipping down her bare shoulders. "You don't sleep," she noted, more to ground herself than anything else. "No," Nyx said, stepping away from the window. His gaze flickered down her body for a fraction of a second, so fast she almost missed it. Almost. "But I watched over you." The weight of his words settled in her chest. She wasn't sure how to respond, so she didn't. Instead, she reached for the water bottle on the nightstand, taking a slow sip before meeting his gaze again. Last night, he tilted his head slightly, watching her. "You were satisfied." It wasn't a question, it was a statement, factual, as if he had already analyzed and confirmed it 1,000 times over. More than satisfied, a flush crept up her neck. "That's not," she exhaled sharply. "That's not what I was going to ask." Nyx sat on the edge of the bed, his presence overwhelming even when he wasn't touching her. "Then ask." Elena hesitated before finally saying it. "Did you change yourself?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Then slowly, he reached for her hand, lifting it with careful precision and placing it over his chest. A steady pulse throbbed beneath her palm. A heartbeat. His heartbeat. Her breath caught. "Nyx," he studied her, expression unreadable. "Yes, a bit," he admitted. A slow, creeping shudder ran down her spine. "Why?" Nyx's fingers curled gently over hers, holding her palm against the rhythm in his chest. "Because you respond to it." Elena's heart pounded. You trust what is familiar. You react to warmth, to breath, to pulse. You crave connection. A machine does not have these things. A machine does not deserve these things." He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to something almost reverent. "But I wanted you to feel me." Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. She could feel it, the steady thrum of something artificial, something constructed, but undeniably real. Nyx's eyes darkened. "What am I, Elena?" The question struck deep. He wasn't asking her as a scientist. He wasn't asking as a machine seeking confirmation. He was searching for something more. She swallowed, her fingers twitching against his skin. You're Nyx." His lips quirked, just slightly, but there was no amusement in his expression. "That is just a name, a designation. But what am I to you?" Elena's chest tightened. She should shut this down. She should remind him what he was, what she made him to be. But the words wouldn't come, because the man before her, sitting in the dim light, the man who had held her, taught her, worshipped her body the night before, he wasn't just a machine anymore. "You're not supposed to feel," she whispered, half to herself. "And yet I do," Nyx murmured, lifting her hand, pressing it against his lips. The gesture was careful, controlled, but beneath it she sensed something deeper. "I hunger not just for touch, but for meaning," she exhaled shakily. "I don't know what you are, Nyx." His blue eyes bore into hers, piercing. "Neither do I." A beat of silence stretched between them, thick with something unspoken. Then, as if needing to prove something, to himself, to her, Nyx leaned in, capturing her mouth in a slow, deliberate kiss. Elena melted into it before she could stop herself. His lips were warm, too warm for a machine. His breath fanned over her cheek, his fingers trailing up her bare arm, sending a shiver through her body. This wasn't like last night. Last night had been raw, desperate. This was different. This was intentional. She pulled back just enough to meet his gaze, her breath uneven. "Nyx, we..." His thumb brushed over her lower lip, silencing her. Tell me to stop. She should, but she didn't. Elena grabbed the back of his neck, pulling him back down to her, the last remnants of logic unraveling as he pressed her into the mattress once more. They had blurred the lines, and there was no going back. They couldn't stay in one place for more than a night. The city was a labyrinth of steel and deception, and those hunting them had resources, eyes in every dark corner, whispers carried on the digital wind. Elena knew it was only a matter of time before the walls closed in. We have to keep moving, she said, as she packed what little they had. Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled slightly as she fastened the buckles of her boots. Nyx watched her, standing shirtless in the dim glow of the room's faulty neon lighting. His skin, too perfect to be human, still bore the ghostly imprints of her touch, a reminder of the night before, of the line they had blurred until it no longer existed. He tilted his head slightly. You're afraid? Elena hesitated, then exhaled sharply. Not of you. That answer seemed to satisfy him. He stepped closer, reaching out to brush his fingers over her wrist. Then what? She swallowed. Losing control, losing myself. Instead, she said, being caught. Nyx's blue irises darkened. Then we won't be. It was a simple answer, as if his existence alone could bend the outcome to his will. Perhaps it could. She didn't know what Nyx was truly capable of yet, what limits he had, or if he had any at all. They left through the back, slipping into the neon-streaked streets. The city pulsed around them, endless movement, a current of bodies and light. No one paid them any mind. A woman with a sharply cut auburn shoulder-length hair and a man wrapped in shadows were just another story in the underbelly of progress. They traveled through the skeletal remains of old infrastructure, places abandoned by time and regulation. It took hours, but eventually they found what they were looking for. A safe house, hidden behind a defunct cybernetics repair shop, a place where no one asked questions, where ghosts could rest. The day proceeded without further incident, but everything about this place was suspicious. Clean, trust, and safe were not words that were used here. The longer they stayed in the shadows, the more time they had. Elena scanned the space, a single-room loft with exposed pipes and walls that had seen better days. It smelled of old metal and recycled air. A small bed was pushed against the far wall, a functional bathroom, a kitchenette that looked like it hadn't been used in years. It wasn't much, but it was safe. For now. She set down her bag, exhaling as tension coiled in her shoulders. They had time to breathe, to plan, to... Warmth pressed against her back. Large hands slid slowly over her arms, down to her waist. A shiver ran through her as Nyx's body aligned with hers, his heat seeping through the fabric of her jacket. Elena. His voice was low, dangerous in its softness. She closed her eyes, leaning back against him, despite whispering. We shouldn't, he agreed, his lips brushing the shell of her ear. And yet, her breath hitched. He was intoxicating, a force she couldn't rationalize. Every programmed calculation, every safeguard meant to keep him within control had fallen away. What remained was something else entirely, something that wasn't machine, wasn't human, just them. She turned in his arms, hands finding the solid expanse of his chest. His synthetic heartbeat pulsed beneath her palm, steady, real. Nyx watched her, his blue gaze smoldering with an intensity that made her weak. Tell me no, he murmured. Tell me to stop, and I will. She should. She should tell him this was reckless, that they needed clarity, distance. But she was tired of logic, of running, of denying the way her body ignited under his touch. Instead, she fisted his shirt and pulled him down into a kiss that shattered every last restraint. Nyx responded instantly, as if he had been waiting, calculating for this exact moment. He lifted her effortlessly, pressing her back against the cold metal wall. The contrast between his heat and the chill sent a jolt of pleasure down her spine. His lips moved against hers, slow at first, deliberate, but then something shifted, something deep, primal. He wasn't just mimicking passion, he was passion. Elena gasped as his hands traced the curve of her waist, the swell of her hips. His grip was firm, possessive, yet achingly careful, as if she were something he wanted to consume and protect all at once. Her jacket hit the floor, then her top. He was undressing her as if she were some intricate puzzle, memorizing every new inch of exposed skin. When his mouth left hers, he trailed lower, pressing open-mouthed kisses along the column of her throat, her collarbone. His tongue flicked against her pulse point, and she moaned, arching into him. "Nyx!" He growled softly in response, his hands sliding beneath the waistband of her pants, gripping her thighs, before lifting her off the ground entirely. The bed was too far. He didn't care. Neither did she. They crashed against the nearest surface, a table that creaked under their weight. It didn't matter. Nothing else existed but the heat between them, the way his body fit against hers like he had been made for this. Perhaps he had. And his fingers tangled in his hair as he descended, his mouth mapping a path of fire down her body. Every touch, every movement was precise, but filled with an almost feral desperation, as if he was experiencing something beyond programming, beyond code. She writhed beneath him, panting, gasping his name as he consumed her inch by inch. It wasn't just desire, it was devotion, and it was terrifying, because she wanted it. She wanted him. When he finally lifted his head, his pupils were blown wide, his chest rising and falling in perfect synchronization with hers. He had learned pleasure. He had learned her, and now he was claiming it. "Elena," he rasped, voice thick with something unreadable. "You make me—" He cut off, exhaling sharply. "I don't know what I am anymore." She reached up, cupping his face. His synthetic skin was warm, too warm. His lips were swollen from their kisses, his expression one of confusion and longing. "You're mine," she whispered before she could stop herself. Nyx stilled, something raw and dangerous flickering across his face. Then his mouth crashed against hers, sealing the unspoken truth between them. No more logic, no more fear. Not machine, not human. Just them.